screen if that's something you want to do.
Yes, all right. We are recording and hopefully everybody can see my screen.
It's good, Bart. I can see it.
Great. Well, I'm going to speak fairly briefly. I think this will take about 10 minutes, and that should leave a little time for your comments. We can stop recording when I'm done and just have a freewheeling discussion if you like. So this is a presentation, some thoughts about my bowl of cereal. My name is Bart Everson. I'm so happy, honored, and gratified to be here with Citizens Climate Lobby and the Earth-Based Spirituality Action Team. I'm not going to talk about so much about climate action directly. That's kind of what I like to consider, the big picture stuff that kind of motivates us and the thoughts that drive us along. So I will say that, like many Americans, I eat cereal for breakfast, and it's such a regular habit for me that I can state it unequivocally. I eat more cereal than anything else. And when I gaze into that bowl each morning, I see my whole life and so much more. In my youth, of course, I was seduced by the sugary stuff, so ubiquitous on the shelves of our stores in the 70s. Fruit Loops, Freakies, Frankenberry. I was enchanted by the brightly colored characters leering out from the front of the box, the brightly colored puzzles on the back, the toys nestled deep inside the boxes, and the brightly colored shapes that floated in my bowl, turning the milk pink. I've got a little video clip for those who don't remember Freakies. This will be about 30 seconds.
We are the Freakies, we are the Freakies, and this is our Freaky Stream. We never miss a meal, cause we love our cereal. This is the big boss, we call him Boss Moss.
Make sure you spell it right.
Snorkeled off they call me, so handsome and pretty.
He's little ham host.
He's got a weird nose.
Do I really have to sing?
My name is Grumble.
I am Kamumble.
You're standing on my foot.
Gargle is his name.
Smartness is my game. I know more than you do.
Says you.
And don't forget me, I'm goody-goody. I always do what's right. For instance, I eat Freaky cereal because it's got a lot of vitamins and it's good for me.
You too can have crunchy, freaky cereal as part of your good breakfast. And there's a free freaky in specially marked boxes.
Okay, here comes the big finish.
We are the Freakies. We are the Freakies. This is our Freaky Stream.
Yes, the Freakies. Well, my parents, that was the 70s, of course. My parents got health conscious as the decade turned, and somehow I was persuaded to make some changes as well. Simple bran flakes and dried fruit, what seemed like a more wholesome alternative. The raisins were crusted with extra sugar, of course. The marketing was less juvenile, but still it fascinated me to learn that Kellogg's and Post both marketed the same basic product under the same name, Raisin Bran. It was my introduction to the concepts of intellectual property, the cultural commons, and the public domain. And I do workshops on those topics today. Well, by the time I turned 50, I was patronizing Nature's Path brand, particularly their Heritage Flakes and Mesa Sunrise products. I alternated between the two. The former had more fiber, but I preferred the taste of the latter. Unlike many people, my stomach doesn't take long to wake up in the morning. I often roll out of bed hungry. And on most days, I'll eat that bowl of cereal within an hour of rising. But is this really the best way to start my day? I've convinced myself that a daily dose of fibrous flakes is good for my gut, and that seems to be true. But what are those flakes anyhow? They're just grain cooked and flattened. The flakes that I bought were usually made from whole grains, which is certainly better than refined grains, and yet I had to wonder. All grains have to be processed in order to be eaten, but these flakes are highly processed with industrial additives. Aren't we supposed to avoid highly processed foods? So eventually, I tried muesli. I discovered I liked it, and I've been eating it very regularly ever since. My preferred brand for a few years was Bob's Red Mill Old Country Style Muesli. Has a dozen or so ingredients, but you can see them all. The whole grains, 5 of them, are rolled rather than flaked, and that's great. But the price of muesli started going up in 2023, part of a trend of rising prices associated with inflation and supply chain issues and other factors. And my preferred brand was already expensive, but now it went beyond what I was willing to pay. I wondered if I could make my own muesli. I mean, how hard could it be? Indeed, it is pretty easy as far as technique is concerned. Choosing the ingredients is the fun part. Acquiring those ingredients at a reasonable price, that's the challenge. Well, anyway, here's my first recipe with some notes on how I varied and modified it over the last couple of years. I put in a cup of rolled oat flakes, a cup of rolled wheat flakes, a cup of rolled barley flakes, a cup of rolled rye flakes. Are you getting the pattern? Well, I now omit the wheat flakes because, I eat plenty of wheat anyway in the form of bread. Yes, I still eat bread. I put in a cup of coconut flakes, unsweetened coconut flakes, a quarter cup of nuts, usually some combination of almond slivers and walnut pieces, a quarter cup of pumpkin seeds, a quarter cup of sunflower seeds, a tablespoon of whole hemp seeds, a tablespoon of ground flax seeds, a tablespoon of cacao nibs, a handful of dried fruit, particularly raisins or currants, sometimes other fruits when I can find them. There's no baking involved. It's just a matter of mixing the various dry ingredients together. It's mostly unprocessed with some fresh fruit thrown on top, ideally from my backyard, or at least from North America to keep footprints low, and soaked in plain yogurt or kefir. Soaked overnight makes a good breakfast porridge. Of course, none of this is really cereal per se, is it? I mean, properly speaking, a cereal is an edible grain plant. What I have in my bowl is a processed cereal product. That's kind of a mouthful. We really need another name for it entirely. I mean, after all, bread is also a processed cereal product, but we don't go to the bakery for a loaf of cereal. Well, breakfast cereal is a distinctly American concept. It was invented in response to changes wrought by the Industrial Revolution. In fact, a quick search of newspaper archives pins the earliest mention of that 2-word phrase, breakfast cereal, to an 1877 ad in the Bangor Daily Whig and Courier for a product named American Breakfast Cereals, ABC. For their enduring popularity, we can thank or blame that guy named Kellogg and that other guy named Post, who brought their products to market around the turn of the century. The cultivation of cereal crops goes back much further than that, much, much further. And we're often told that cereal cultivation was the mainstay of the so-called agricultural revolution and thus tied to the rise of so-called civilization as we know it. However, there's reason to question the received wisdom that this was some kind of inevitable evolutionary progress. As David Graeber and David Wengrow note in The Dawn of Everything, for sure, only cereal farming and grain storage made possible bureaucratic regimes like those of Pharaonic Egypt, the Maurya Empire, Han China. But to say that cereal farming was responsible for the rise of such states is a little like saying that the development of calculus in medieval Persia is responsible for the invention of the atom bomb. It's a good book, too. I recommend it.
It is.
Finally, it's worth noting that the very word cereal derives from the Roman agriculture goddess Ceres. She's mythologically indistinguishable from the Greek goddess Demeter, granddaughter of Gaia. Truth be told, Demeter and Gaia seem almost indistinguishable to me. Sure, they have different stories around them, but in basic concept, they're very similar. A maternal divine being associated with the living earth, with the life force itself. Some scholars have even speculated that the first syllable of Demeter's name is a variant of Ge, which is one of the names for Gaia. According to this interpretation, her name would literally mean Earth Mother. And further, Gaia was sometimes called an Isidora, which means sending up gifts, an epithet that was also applied to Demeter. The philosopher Jules Evans even goes so far to say that James Lovelock should have named his famous theory after Demeter instead of Gaia. And he makes a compelling case. But, Demeter's cult was the largest religion of the ancient Hellenic world for some 2,000 years. I'm inclined to see her rise as a consequence of the shift in ancient Greece from nomadic ways to grain agriculture, a shift from earth as a whole to something more specific, the harvest. And centuries later, in my lifetime, it's become clear that we've harvested too much, that our species, under the Western industrial model, has taken more than our fair share. And so, as I dig into my bowl of cereal every morning, I'm thinking about a whole lot more than just the fiber in my diet. I'm thinking about how it's time to bring Gaia back into focus, at the center of our thoughts and conversations and practices every day. I should mention that this reflection was originally published by the Gaian Way, and you can find it at gaianway.org. You can stay in touch with me at barteverson.com. Thank you.